The Israeli military has launched a series of airstrikes against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, intensifying the already volatile situation in the region. These strikes are part of an escalating conflict between the two sides, which has seen a significant increase in hostilities over recent weeks. The strikes have specifically targeted areas in southern Lebanon, causing widespread damage to buildings and infrastructure, and sending plumes of smoke into the sky. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, have stated that their operations are focused on dismantling Hezbollah's military infrastructure, which they believe poses a direct threat to Israel's security. According to the IDF, Hezbollah is using these locations to store a significant arsenal of weapons and to launch attacks against Israeli targets, further escalating the conflict. The IDF claims that their recent actions are in direct response to a barrage of rocket fire from Lebanon into Israeli territory, which has put many Israeli towns and cities on high alert. Hezbollah has openly claimed responsibility for some of these rocket attacks, stating that they are a form of resistance against Israeli aggression. The group has vowed to retaliate against Israeli actions, leading to a cycle of attack and counterattack that shows no signs of abating. Tensions between Israel and Hezbollah have been high for many years. Rooted in a complex history of conflict and political rivalry in the Middle East, Hezbollah is not just a militant group, it is also a powerful political and military force within Lebanon, wielding significant influence over the country's political landscape. The group receives substantial backing from Iran, which provides it with financial support, weapons, and training, further complicating the regional dynamics. From Israel's perspective, Hezbollah represents a major threat to its national security, given the group's military capabilities and its proximity to Israeli borders. The recent airstrikes mark a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict, raising concerns about the potential for a broader regional war if the situation continues to deteriorate. Hezbollah has responded to the Israeli airstrikes with rocket fire of its own, escalating the already tense situation in the region. The exchange of fire has intensified fears of a prolonged conflict. The group has fired rockets into northern Israel, specifically targeting military positions and infrastructure. These attacks have led to significant damage in the affected areas. These attacks have caused damage to buildings and infrastructure, but no casualties have been reported so far. The destruction has left many residents in fear and uncertainty. Hezbollah says it will continue to defend Lebanon against what it calls Israeli aggression. The group has made it clear that it sees itself as a protector of Lebanese sovereignty. The group has vowed to respond to any further Israeli attacks with even greater force. This commitment to retaliation has only added to the volatility of the situation. This cycle of violence is a dangerous escalation of the conflict, with both sides showing no signs of backing down. The ongoing hostilities have created a climate of fear and instability. Both sides have shown a willingness to use force to achieve their objectives. The military actions from both Hezbollah and Israel have only served to deepen the crisis. This raises concerns about the potential for a wider war, as the conflict could easily draw in other regional players. The international community is watching closely, worried about the broader implications. International leaders have called for restraint from both sides, urging them to avoid further escalation. Diplomatic efforts are underway to bring both parties to the negotiating table. They are urging Israel and Hezbollah to de-escalate the situation and seek a peaceful resolution. The calls for peace are growing louder as the conflict drags on. The risk of a major conflict is very real, with the potential to destabilize the entire region. The world watches with bated breath, hoping for a peaceful outcome. Israel says its airstrikes are aimed at weakening Hezbollah's military capabilities. The IDF claims to have hit a number of key targets. These include weapons storage facilities, rocket launchers, and command centers. Israel's goal is to degrade Hezbollah's ability to threaten its security. They want to reduce the number of rockets Hezbollah can fire into Israel. Israel also wants to disrupt Hezbollah's command and control structure. This, they hope, will make it harder for Hezbollah to launch coordinated attacks. The effectiveness of these strikes is difficult to assess. It is unclear how much damage has been inflicted on Hezbollah's military infrastructure. The United States has expressed concern over the escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned of a real risk of escalation. Sullivan says the situation is more acute than in recent months. He stressed the need for both sides to exercise restraint. The U.S. has reiterated its support for Israel's right to defend itself. However, they have also urged Israel to avoid civilian casualties in Lebanon. The U.S. is concerned that a wider conflict could erupt. This could draw in other regional powers. The situation remains highly volatile. The U.S. is closely monitoring developments. Section 5. Cross-border fire exchanging rockets and airstrikes. Exchanges of fire across the Israel-Lebanon border continue. Israel has carried out multiple rounds of airstrikes. Hezbollah has responded with rocket barrages. The IDF says it has struck over 180 targets in Lebanon. These include rocket launchers, command posts, and weapons depots. Hezbollah claims to have fired dozens of rockets into Israel. They say they are targeting military positions and infrastructure. The cross-border fire has caused fear and disruption on both sides. Residents have been forced to take shelter. There are reports of damage to buildings and infrastructure. The situation remains tense, with the potential for further escalation. Section 6. The human cost, rising death toll, and global outrage. The escalating violence has already claimed the lives of innocent civilians. An Israeli airstrike in Beirut killed at least 37 people. Among the dead were children and women. The strike hit a residential building in a Hezbollah stronghold. This has sparked outrage and condemnation from the international community. The rising death toll is a tragic reminder of the human cost of this conflict. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire. They urge all parties to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. The conflict is causing immense suffering. Section 7. Lebanon on high alert, increased security measures. The Lebanese government has heightened security measures across the country. They are particularly focused on areas near the border with Israel. The government is deploying additional troops. They are setting up checkpoints and increasing patrols. These measures are aimed at preventing further escalation. The Lebanese government is also trying to reassure its citizens. They are urging people to remain calm and vigilant. They are asking people to report any suspicious activity to the authorities. The situation remains tense and unpredictable. Section 8. Israel's justifications, self-defense and deterrence. Israel maintains that its actions are necessary for self-defense. They say they are justified in striking Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The Israeli government argues that Hezbollah poses a direct threat to its security. They point to the rocket attacks fired from Lebanon into Israel. Israel says it will not tolerate attacks on its territory. They say they will continue to strike Hezbollah targets to protect their citizens. Israel also hopes to deter Hezbollah from launching further attacks. They believe that by demonstrating their military strength, they can convince Hezbollah to back down. It remains to be seen if this strategy will succeed. Section 9. The international community calls for restraint and dialogue. The international community is deeply concerned about the escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah. The situation has reached a critical point, with both sides suffering significant casualties and widespread destruction. World leaders are urging both sides to show restraint. They emphasize the importance of avoiding further bloodshed and the need to protect civilian lives. They are calling for a de-escalation of the conflict. Diplomatic channels are being utilized to mediate and find a peaceful solution to the hostilities. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire. Secretary General Antonio Guterres has stressed the urgency of halting the violence and returning to negotiations. They are urging all parties to engage in dialogue. Constructive communication is seen as the only viable path to resolving the underlying issues. The European Union has also expressed its concern. EU officials have been vocal about the need for a peaceful resolution and have offered to facilitate talks. They have called for a return to calm and stability. Public demonstrations in Europe show widespread support for peace and a cessation of hostilities. The international community is working to prevent a wider conflict. Efforts are being made to bring together various stakeholders to discuss long-term solutions. They are engaging in diplomatic efforts to try and bring the two sides to the negotiating table. Mediators are working tirelessly to bridge the gap between the conflicting parties. A peaceful resolution is the only way to end this conflict. The hope is that through continued dialogue and cooperation, a lasting peace can be achieved. ensuring stability and security for all involved. Section 10. The potential for wider conflict. A region on edge. The escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah has raised fears of a wider regional conflict. The Middle East is a volatile region. It is home to many long-standing conflicts and rivalries. A wider conflict could draw in other regional powers. This could have devastating consequences for the entire region. The international community is working to prevent this from happening. They are urging all sides to show restraint and engage in dialogue. However, the situation remains very dangerous. The risk of a wider conflict is real. Section 11. The need for a peaceful resolution. Finding a way forward. The recent violence between Israel and Hezbollah is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the Middle East. It is essential for all parties to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The cycle of violence must end. The international community has a crucial role to play. They must work to bring Israel and Hezbollah to the negotiating table. A lasting peace agreement is the only way to ensure long-term stability in the region. This will require compromise from all sides. It will also require a commitment to dialogue and diplomacy.